Okay, so we're already in session. We had a closed session before now, but I'm going to ask our Secretary Allison to, this is a formality, to do a roll call.
Cervantes?
Here.
Ryan?
Yes.
Phelps?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here.
Sherby?
Here.
Westahab?
Here.
Fletcher? Here.
Moving on, if everybody would please stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a full house tonight. The next part of the agenda is recognition of public comments. This is a time when visitors may request to address the Board of Education on any item germane to the role and the function of the Board of Education. When Board President so directs, the person should stand, give their name, and begin their statements. Persons are asked to refrain from making any personal comments regarding any individual. The Board President reserves the right to limit presentations to 5 minutes. So we have a whole stack of people who want to talk, so let's get it. The first person I'm going to ask to stand is Mr. Tom Schmidt.
May I use the lectern?
Yes, please.
Good evening. My name is Tom Schmidt. I live at 1047 Sweetbriar Place here in Galesburg. And I thought I'd begin with a very quick quote tonight by a man by the name of Richard Feynman, who said simply, "I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." That resonated with me. I am a 2-term former member of the National School Board. Halfway through my last year of my second term, I resigned that position to absorb a privilege to serve as president of Carlson College, which I did for 8.5 years. In my career as a public administrator, I came to believe that I had 2 primary responsibilities. As public representatives, I believe you share these responsibilities. First is to articulate a vision for the future, and I underscore a vision, not your vision, because the second part of that is to then work towards consensus in order to implement that vision. Secondly, to make decisions among competing alternatives, among which is always to do nothing. To accomplish this duties, you first have to define the problem you're expected to confront. Others tonight may discuss a specific issue, such as mask mandates, which in my view is merely a symptom of the real problem we're confronted by. Tonight, I want the board to consider a much broader definition of that problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with what I call a societal insurrection, if not a coup. A coup against the sovereignty of United States citizens. If that's at all true, then I have a responsibility to identify who our enemies are. And there are at least 4 in my mind. Not in order of importance. First, I would identify Marxist socialism that is on the march in Illinois and across this country. There's not a component of the human experience right now that is not under duress. It is a cancer that is filling every molecule of our existence. Secondly, our own government. Excuse me. Our own government, which at this point in time is moving us down a pathway of bankruptcy, amongst other things. There is no longer a correlation between the expenditures at the federal level and the amount of revenue that they can collect in the form of taxes. It is impossible. Right now, during our lifetime, we are bearing witness to our government simply printing money to plug the gap between their expenditures and the revenues they can collect by virtue of legitimate taxation. Today, we're looking at $1 trillion of supposed infrastructure to be combined with another $3.6 trillion. The last time our country had this much accumulated debt was at the end of the Second World War. And there's eerie similarities to what's going on. We are in danger of becoming addicted to the flow of public money, fiat money. We are in danger of becoming addicted to a flow of dollars right now that are described as a one-shot sorts of dollars coming to us. For instance, in the form of the Esser's grant. Galesburg is on schedule to get over $21 million in response to an emergency. Somewhere I missed the memo because I don't see a $21 million emergency impacting Galesburg. Thirdly, I would label our media, who have swayed away from reporting the truth to a constitutional republic to instead promoting an agenda. I'm old enough to remember when the 10 o'clock news came on and somebody wanted to do an editorial. They went through painful efforts to demonstrate it was an editorial opinion and not that of the news station. Today, those lines are absolutely blurred. It is a huge disservice to the citizens of this country. Lastly, I would label human nature as one of our enemies. A human nature which is inclined to accommodate the subtle erosions of our individual liberties in pursuit of the perception of safety and security. It's the proverbial frog in a pot of water that stays there until it becomes to the boiling point. We're approaching the boiling point. I say the perception of safety and security. How else do we describe or explain the divide, the political divide in this country between heavily dependent populations in the major metropolitan cities of this country versus rural America, where we still embrace the concepts of individual responsibility? Perception of safety, this weekend alone, 70 people shot in Chicago, 12 killed. Where's the safety? Where's the security? This broader definition I'm offering you gives context to a wide, infinite array of other issues that are coming down the pathway. My real point here is to challenge a public policy to be responsive to the big picture, not the individual. Two of the battle lines that come to my mind, my personal viewpoint, where I think the battle lines are being drawn, and I'm more than halfway done. Firstly, I believe that the family unit is the primary building block of our society, not government. My belief is that parents are to be in control of their children, not bureaucratic agencies or government at any level. We need to think about the long-term repercussions of that. Another belief is that public schools are units of local government. Further, that the sovereign citizens of a local school district are best qualified to make local decisions, not the state and not the federal government. Do you have any inclination as to what is upsetting parents and people? They're not being heard in our democracy, even though they're the ones that are paying the bills and ultimately responsible for raising good citizens. In conclusion, I would reiterate the broader definition of this problem. It is a societal insurrection with at least 4 enemies. And I would remind us all tonight, there is no such thing as absolute solutions in life. There are only trade-offs. The unintended consequences of mandating masks are detrimental to our children, our society, and to our future. In part, because they are perhaps unintended, but nonetheless, creating an addiction to government. We kowtow to any inkling of directive without standing up for individual rights. When liberty is jeopardized by state government, it is the government that has the burden of proof that demonstrates the benefits of complying with something outweigh the costs. I personally have borne witness to my 7-year-old grandson that no longer will go outside the house, but making himself physically ill. It's a visible, tangible impact that I've borne witness to. The solution I'm proposing to you as a unit of local government: number one, recognize that our rights come from God.
Amen. Amen.
Number one. Number two, the reason I make that point in that order, it sets the stage for the role of government, whether it be local, state, or federal. Your primary responsibility is to defend our rights. Secondly, it is our job to hold government accountable to that role, protecting those rights. We must retain power within the sovereign people, not government. Lastly, I would point out, a solution many times is to do nothing, particularly when there is no consensus over which public bodies ought to be moving. My instincts tell me there is not consensus over this, and there's mounting evidence to suggest that school-age children should not bear the burden of mandated masks. I thank you for your time and attention tonight.
I think I've been for 5 minutes.
Yes.
We can't be here all night. Can we limit these to 5 minutes as a maximum, please?
Yeah, Mr. Schmidt was the first talker, and I did kind of extend additional courtesy time to him. For our future speakers, we have a stack full of them here, so that we're not here all evening and we can proceed to the rest of the business agenda. I would like to ask you to stick to a 5-minute presentation. Next on the list, I have a Seth Dickerson. Yeah, please step to the microphone, please. And for your information, you don't have to give your address.
Okay. Hi, my name's Seth. I live in Galesburg. So I'm here tonight because I'm dismayed of what is happening. If the vaccines work, why are we wearing masks? I'm just asking. If vaccines work, why are we wearing masks? Why are they telling us to get a third shot if it works? It's not FDA approved. I'm not getting the vaccine because it's not FDA approved. There's no science. I don't know what's in this vaccine. Okay? Scientists tell me it's great. It's whatever. But I choose not to get it because I don't want to get it. My body, my choice, right? Also, if you guys teach CRT, you guys see me out in front of the school with signs and bullhorns because that is a toxic ideology. And you know what? I'm going to address it because saying I have inherent privilege, which I started from the bottom and worked my way up in life, put myself through school, paid for my college. I am not privileged. I'm a man that worked and did what he had to do. And if you teach any of that toxic ideology, I'm going to be at your school, and I'm going to be having a sign, and I'm going to gather people. Because you know what privilege is? Privilege is burning down buildings. Privilege is being able to shoot people and get away with it, like in Portland. That's privilege. I feel like this country is going downhill very fast. And it's young men like me that need to stand up and say, enough is enough. I don't know what you all think, but this toxic ideology, this people being on COVID leave, I see it all the time at work. Oh, they don't want to work because they get the extra $600. It ain't right. When I'm out there working in the iron fields, trying to make my daily bread, and we are going down a path of socialism, communism. And we are teaching our youth to hate our own country. And that is the truth. And the truth is, we have toxic ideologies when black-clad Antifa can go in the West Coast, beat people up, and claim they are on the side of good. Are you on the side of good when CNN says mostly peaceful protests while in the background the cities are burning? And you know what? I'm shocked that 17-year-olds, Kyle, have to get an AR-15 and say enough is enough. And then they get charged with murder. While an Antifa mob can have guns, skateboards, hit you in the head, and try to kill you, and then the mob says you're the person who's causing the problems. This is the type of country we're living in, folks. If you don't stand up, and if people don't do something, this country ain't gonna last in my lifetime. I'm 26 years old. This country will not last in my lifetime with ideologies that are toxic and ideologies like CRT. Have you not seen the kids? ACAB, you know what that means? All cops are bastards. They're teaching these kids to hate police. I used to work in a jail. I've seen the worst of it. Teaching kids to hate our country because they said it's founded on genocide. There are good and bad things of this country. But this country is a great country. I've been to Vietnam. I've seen what socialism has done there. They put people in re-education camps, and you aren't allowed to have a voice, and they killed many people there. While we have an administration that does nothing. I feel like no one's at the helm now. I don't know about you, but I'm loud, I'm mad because we got lots of school districts in this state that want to promote CRT and toxic ideologies. Look at Chicago. Look how bad it is. It's so bad. There's a war on police right now. And no one's doing anything about it. And it's leftist, socialist teachers that are teaching our kids and revising history to promote this. It's disgusting and it's wrong. And I'll tell you this, I used to be a Democrat. I voted for Obama, I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2015. You know what made me change my mind? Because when I saw a riot in Berkeley, they're beating Trump supporters. I'm not trying to make this political, but this is the state of our country where it is one group of people, and it's one group of people. We have not been this divided. I don't know, I've only been here 26 years on this earth, but we have never been this divided in this country in my lifetime.
Mr. Dickerson, I'm going to ask you to stop at this point.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker is Francisco Cruz Kiko Martinez.
Yeah, that's me.
And for the future speakers, I'd like to remind you to make sure that what you're presenting to is germane to the Board of Education.
CRT.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Kiko Martinez. I just moved to this area not a year ago, this past March, from Rock Island County. I'm a 26-year Marine Corps war veteran. I'm a minister to Marines, and I'm a husband and father. Last July, when I was in ICU at the Veterans Hospital in Iowa City, they were just getting ready, well, they almost put me on life support, induced coma, intubated. And while I was in ICU, I found out my son had died of COVID. My other son, his brother, found him in his bedroom. And he had other issues. It's just when he got COVID, he went to sleep and stayed asleep. Having said that, I know my son, and he would have rather had died with the freedom to choose what he would do with his own body than to live on with what's going on here with regard to prisoners' order and all that. I know my son. The same goes with me. Tom, you said you had a concern about your grandson getting sick. If children get sick because they're mandated to wear masks and they get sick because of it, where does the liability come into play? And is a parent going to sue each board member here? Is the parent going to sue each board member and the school district? I was a twice-over police officer and union president. And I had to deal with a lot of issues that my officers did, but they always had the government's back. These 4 police officers here, they're going to have a conflict of interest if there's somebody who doesn't comply. Because when I became a Marine in 1976, and when I became a civilian, a civil police officer, and a federal police officer, I swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. So if the dictates from above say do this or don't do that, and they conflict with our constitutional rights, my understanding is you have the right to abort your baby because it's your body. Well, don't you have a right to just wear a mask? That's far, that's kind of Mickey Mouse compared to aborting a baby. But you have a right to your own body. So, some of the people here had met before and will meet again. That's okay. Okay. Can I have my time back? Okay. Well, anyway, they'll meet again at Big Cat's restaurant at 6 on the 17th. And they're here because there's a group of people that are concerned about not just what's going on with the school, but other issues. And our Constitution, we the people, your people, we're people. We need to listen to each other, articulate our ideas, find out where each other's coming from. Because to get adamant and to get all riled up, all it does is build a defense on either side. As a police officer, believe me, I know that. So I just want to implore everybody here to articulate your points, and above all, like my son did, he met his maker. And my Ricky, one of these days, and I'm just over 5 minutes, we'll all meet our maker, and we're going to account for what we did or didn't do in accordance with his loving word. That's all I got. We're over 5 minutes.
Mr. Martinez, thank you for your service.
Thank you. What a thank you.
Next speaker is Angie Olson. You check to see if she's outside maybe?
I had to unfollow them in it.
Hello, Ms. Olson. As a reminder, 5 minutes germane to the business of the school board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, since you already know who I am, I won't introduce who I am. I just came here today because I wanted to bring up just a couple points for the board to take into consideration. First off, I want to point out that still in the big old banner on the State Board of Education's website, they're still proudly stating that they're following CDC guidance. And CDC guidance still states that masks are recommended in school, but required on the bus. The CDC guidance also goes on to say that it's still left up to that local control. I know that we keep saying that there's a liability issue, but something that legislators in our state have pointed out, there's no legal liability for ignoring a non-legally binding mandate. Civil liability is obviously something that the state would not pursue against an individual or a district. A person or a public or private school being sued successfully for someone contracting a highly transmittable airborne virus in a public space is absolutely without precedent, impossible to prove. So again, this is just a tactic used to force that compliance. I would also like to point out, I'd love to see that liability case in writing then. Because as a parent, I want to see that. I want to point out House Bill 2789 was the vehicle to give rulemaking and enforcement and authority to the state and the IDPH, and that legislation did not pass through the Senate. This is a clear acknowledgement that our legislation agrees that there is no existing authority for rulemaking and enforcement, nor does the executive order expand that statutory authority. The governor keeps citing the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act for his mandate, but this act does not give him authority to create new regulations. It was already discussed in court. Another issue I know is losing recognition or funding. The State Board of Education can't strip a school from recognition because according to Article 10 of the Illinois Constitution, our children are required a free education. So if they shut you down, where are our kids going to go? A mandate's not a law. It's simply guidance. And like Thomas DeFleur has pointed out, guidance is not a rule. Title 23 is the only adapted rule and regulation that has been adapted for the State Board of Education. So let me ask you this. Was in-person learning mandated for everybody in school this year in Illinois? Absolutely it was. But right now, Chicago Public Schools is negotiating to go completely remote. So I hope he holds their funding because he's going to disagree they're not going to follow his mandate. Our kids are here to learn. It's hard to learn when you're constantly being reminded of COVID, constantly having to worry about your mask or worry about the person next to you being sent home because they might have to quarantine. And now they might have to be worried that they might, get pulled to do random testing. Ironically, the CDC has now recalled the PCR test because it couldn't test the difference between influenza and COVID. We can't use it after December 31st. All of this has brought on so much anxiety for our children, and not to mention the barriers that the masks have brought on with learning letters and sounds, and even for our speech and language kiddos. 30 minutes with a shield doesn't justify some of those language barriers that they face every single day. The fact that we're asking you guys to vote on this shows that you have authority as our elected officials to make this decision. 300 schools in this state are still holding firm and allowing parents a choice. We live in a constitutional republic for a reason. It's time that we have that freedom of choice for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Thank you. Next on the list is Karen Schober. Karen. Oh, I'm pronouncing it right. Karen Schober. Schlober. Yes.
Okay. COVID in schools. At the beginning of the onset of this virus, a year and a half ago, my daughter and her two sons were staying with us while their house was being fixed. 14-year-old twins. One of the boys came home had a fever, didn't feel good. Was like the third day and said we better get him to the doctor. Now before this happened, Grandma was taking care of him because Mom was working at the cancer center and Grandma was taking up food, hugging and kissing on him, loving him, taking care of him. His twin brother with asthma did not get it. We did not get it. Didn't even know what it was. I still have my doubts because there's so much crap. And there really is. There's so much crap about who has it, who doesn't have it. A year and a half, we've had masks on. For a year and a half. I have a 5-year-old grandson who's going to be starting school this year. No. We do not have to do it. If anybody wants to get vaccinated, let the teachers get vaccinated, if that's it, but no mandate, because this is not going to go away with masks. They're coming after your kids with shots, and mandatory, and no. We have been through it. I'm 76 years old and have COPD, and whatever happens, happens, but I will not get vaccinated. I will be careful, and I'll wear a mask when I have to, but not for another year and a half, and not on little school kids. And that's what I have to say. And we're going to fight it.
Yes.
Thank you, Grandma.
Next speaker is Mr. Jason Wolf.
Thank you, Board. Let me have a couple minutes of your time. I'd just like to begin saying, you all know what COVID-19 actually means. It means Certificate of Vaccination ID. Do you know what Corona means? If it was numbers? You write Corona down. You add all those letters up with the numbers that coincide, so C would be 3, 0, or O would be 15, R is 18. You add all that up, you get 66. You put Corona down, there's 6 letters. What's that equal? 666. You all know who Bill Gates is, Mr. Depopulation. You know he is the main funder of the CDC and the WHO, along with China. You know China owns most of our media outlets and companies that we listen to every day.
Yeah.
Did you know Barack Obama wrote an executive order that we could be propagandized? It wasn't up till Mr. Obama made that executive order that we could be propagandized and told what we should watch and what we should hear. Just a little more tidbits here. I'm a truck driver. I spent the last year and a half driving my truck as an essential employee. I haven't been sick once. I touch dirty gas pumps. I talk to people. I give invoices to everybody in factories. Lots of immigrants at these factories. I'm going by them every day. I'm not sick one time. I'm still required to wear the stupid mask that don't do no good. You people seen the video with the man and his son who made his son wear every type of mask, and they put a breathalyzer meter under it. It was like the fire agencies had these things, and they tested the toxicity levels under every mask. Every mask failed the OSHA standards. Every mask. And there was smoke pouring out of every mask that kid had on. It does no good. If there's a virus, it's just like smoke. It's going to come through every particle, every little filter in this mask. My daughter wears these little masks that I got at the truck stop with little face paintings and stuff on them. Well, I cut that mask open after watching some videos of what they're putting in the masks. All the blue masks that you people are wearing right now. You're making yourself sick by wearing those masks because there's shit in them. It's killing you right now. Graphene oxide. That's the poison they put in the vaccination shot that we're all being lied to right now. Graphene oxide. 200 times stronger than steel. One of the most superconductive elements ever made. Did you notice the 5G has been going on for the last 2 years while we're all here sitting at home collecting a nice fat unemployment check? 5G is still being built. You know why? Because it's going to mind control all you people that got the vaccinations. Because the nanotechnology put in the vaccinations. This is genocide. Right now there's 2,000 lawyers around the world suing world governments, CDC, the WHO, for Nuremberg 2.0. I just read that one man just suing the Federal Republic of the government right now for $500 trillion to give us all back our money for being slaves for a country that's not even a country. Our country is a corporation. We were stolen in 1871 by our Congress, sold to the Vatican and the London banks. We have been a corporation ever since. You people are corporations yourself. So am I. We're all living under slave certificates called Social Security cards. They've been taxing us and sending all of our money over to the Vatican and to the London banks of Rothschild. the Bar Association, British Accredited Registry. Our lawyers work for the Vatican and for London. Everything, all of our money goes to London and all these world corrupt leaders. Look up the World Economic Forum. The guy that made it, Klaus Schwab, he's a German. He's the ones behind all this shit right now. It's called Agenda 21. Operation Lockstep, Agenda 2030. They've already got our future planned out. They've had this shit going on for 40 years. They've been planning this stuff right now. Fauci's behind all this. He's made this as a bioweapon, this vaccination. He's had patents on this for 15 years, and so has the CDC. They weaponized Mother Nature. They made a fake vaccine, and they all screwed us and told us that it was a virus. But they tricked us because it first came out as a model from the UK that said 500 million people are going to die. And so we locked the country down. And they came up with the PCR test. PCR tests aren't even supposed to test for COVID. It's for tests for other stuff. They ramped up the PCR dial so everything tests positive. So then they lock us all down with fake numbers, get us all fear porn, so we scare ourselves into submission, so we all want to take the jab. So we all take a jab with fake poison. Not only that's going to kill the people that took it and maim them if it don't kill them, the FDA knew there was 147 ways it's going to screw the person who took the jab. 147 ways it can hurt them. That's why it's not mandated, because they know it's going to kill people. You guys have to get off the TV. You have to go to other places like BitChute, Rumble, other social media sites.
Mr. Wolf, I'm going to have to cut you short here. 5 minutes. Thank you.
Mr. President, I believe our agenda says that the comments have to be what's germane to the operation of the school board. And I have not heard that lately. I would request that people who can't make their comments germane be stopped from speaking, because we're giving people a public forum, and there's other forums available to them. This is our opportunity, excuse me, this is a public meeting, but we have
Free speech.
I believe it's important for us to stay germane to the operation of the school district as we sit here as representatives of the citizens of Galesburg.
Thank you, Member Lyons. So noted.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Cathy Custer. And again, I'll remind you that the same instructions as before. 5 minutes and germane to the business of the school board, and you don't need to state your address.
Okay, my name's Cathy Custer. I am a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. And I have worked for the school district in the past, and I love children with all my heart. And I just want that to be the first thing that comes out of my mouth, because it's facts. This has been quite unnerving for not only my family, but a lot of families. I've got a great-granddaughter that's supposed to start kindergarten this year, and if there's mask mandates, they will be homeschooled. My grandchildren and my great-grandchildren also are unvaccinated, and they are all healthy. God woke me up last night. He knew I was worried. And all I could keep hearing over and over in my mind was mandate law. Mandate law. Mandate law. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I got it. I looked up on my phone to see what that was. And I also looked over some other information that I had got on a live Facebook meeting last night. And I typed in on Google, and it says, how do you make a law in Illinois? Anybody can do this. All you gotta do is say, how do you make a law in Illinois? Put it on Google. This is what it says. Illinois, like the United States legislature, has two bodies. the Senate and the House of Representatives. Oops, hold on, my phone's going crazy. Hang on. Come on. Oh, you're just gonna be stand button, aren't you? Okay, hold on. I'll just do it again. How was a law passed in the state of Illinois? Okay. This is called a bicameral legislature. A bill becomes a law when it passes both houses of the General Assembly, which would be your Senate and your House of Representatives, with a majority vote in each house, and is signed by the governor. Now, I know it's only Google, but that's what I was taught in civics class. And I did go here in Galesburg. And the ISBE, the CDC, nor the executive branch makes laws on their own. As I just read, it has to be passed by both houses and signed by the governor. So far, all these mandates and things have not done that. They have not run it through any of the state legislatures, they have not passed anything, and they have not been signed into law. So that's number one. Also, as last time when I came here for the board meeting, masks have shown that they are mentally and physically harmful to children.
Yeah.
That has been proven. And one other question I had real quick. Could you tell me, Mr. Superintendent, have you had a survey sent out, or have you surveyed the Board of Education on what their views are on this particular subject about masks?
Oh, okay. Have we surveyed the community on this issue? No. We have not.
Why not? Why not?
We have spoken to the board members individually and in groups about it.
The board members is not the only
society
person
that
that's
they
using it.
do, you don't survey
It's like
ours.
a tax money.
So what are we asking for?
As a reminder, this is a business meeting, not an open discussion. We have an opportunity for members that are, for the public to address the board.
Okay,
Please
thank you.
proceed. Thank you.
Illinois operates under Dillon's rule. Any governing body has only the authority explicitly granted to it. If the legislature did not give a specific power to a division of the government, then they do not have that power. So, since no law has been passed regarding masks, according to what it takes for a law to be passed in Illinois, I don't understand why that's a problem. I also know that a person sent in a Freedom of Information Act request to the ISBE, asking for info that they sent to schools, stating they'd lose tort immunity or funding for tort immunity. The reply was, there are no records that exist for funding. The only file was Red Hill School. They had ditched masks while they still had suggestion from the ISBE. They put them on probation. Later, they changed their guidelines to optional masks, and they dropped the probation. The precedent was set, so the lesson should be learned. ISBE sends a probation letter after they changed guidance, and the probation got dropped. So the thing about the money and all the other stuff, I can't find it anywhere where it says that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Custer. It's been about 7 minutes.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your conversation. Okay, and next speaker is Ms. Deb Martey.
Hi, everyone. My name's Deb Martey. I live in Guilford. I was born here, graduated here, retired from Knox College here, and I know some of the board members, and I know a lot of the people in the audience. I'm here tonight to speak for hundreds of parents, grandparents, and patriotic citizens who have bonded together to address the board here tonight. There's not enough time for all of us to speak, so I'm representing those who could not attend. There are others at other board meetings, or didn't sign up to speak. I challenge you and all the board members to listen with an open mind and know that the facts given here tonight are brought forth because our children are struggling to learn, to breathe, to smile, to listen, to play, and to have joy at school, and are in danger of harming their well-being. I have 3 grandchildren in school. These things fog up, sorry. And I see them come home from school exhausted, with headaches. They're sad. And they cry on the way home from school, stressed out and beat down and in fear because they've been told and informed that they will be punished by people in our education system if they remove their masks. That's unacceptable. School is supposed to be a place of learning, a place of friendship and excitement. Remember your own experiences when it was time to get ready for the next year in school. You wanted to go to the store and get new notebooks and maybe a pair of new shoes or new pencils, pencil boxes. Our kids don't want to do that. They don't want to go to school. We've changed school environment so much that they don't want to go, and they're not learning. Our children are failing in school because of this stupid thing. Kids don't look forward to going to class. Do we really want to be responsible for kids failing in school and failing in life? That's what's happening. The information I present tonight is supported by local doctors, multiple medical studies, and provided to me by the Director of Professional Services at Spoon River Home Health Care. She sees how badly kids are being affected. Masks harm the physical well-being of students. Within 3 minutes, studies show the level of carbon dioxide present in the child's air being breathed in was 6 times higher than the legal limit of 0.2%. Masks can trigger an asthma attack or an inflammatory response in the lungs due to inhalation of microfiber that forms in a mask. Respiratory impairment, carbon dioxide accumulation, and hypoxia. Shortness of breath and lightheadedness. Headaches, eye aches, skin infections, acne, allergies, dermatitis. Staph infection is rampant in masks. In repeated exposure to masks and the chemical fibers that bond masks together. Children are experiencing weakened immune systems, prolonged denial of oxygen in the body, and it can cripple the ability of the immune system to tackle infections, which is even worse in older or younger people. Masks increase the touching of your face, your mouth, your nose. How uncomfortable it is to have this thing here. You're hot, your glasses fog up. If children wear glasses, they can't see. Masks harm the psychosocial well-being of children. Socially, behind due to the inability to read expressions and respond appropriate to facial expressions. Short-term and long-term psychological effects related to fear and anxiety, social isolation and depression leading to sleep issues and separation anxiety. Mask fatigue and incorrect mask use has led to increased and repeated disciplinary actions against children. Masks are reduce the ability to learn. Visualizing the mouth is imperative when teaching phonics. Young kids learn by phonics. Speech development depends on visualizing the mouth, demonstrating and visualizing these techniques. Hearing impaired students are unable to read and unable to communicate effectively. Autistic students who struggle all the time, they struggle terribly with wearing masks. They have no idea if a teacher is accepting in what they're doing or trying to teach them visually is impaired. So far, I have 3 grandchildren in school, and they come home from school, and it's ridiculous. I mean, they're so upset. So far, the group that I'm representing, we've attended 3 other school board meetings in the last 2 weeks with this information that I just presented to you. 2 have postponed their mandatory mask policies until further meetings with parents and opinions. And 1 has made the decision to give parents the choice to mask or not to mask. We ask you for the same opportunity to make our kids life-altering decisions ourselves. We love our kids. It's not local, state, or the federal government's responsibility to choose a mask or not for us or for them. I sincerely hope you have the courage to put our children first and empower parents to decide for their children. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Ashley Moore.
Hi, my name's Ashley Moore. I hate putting this thing on. The pandemic never went away, so why have we relaxed these summer months? Let me take you back to the atmosphere of March 2020 and the months that followed. I've been a healthcare worker for 14 years. At the time, I was working as a hospice CNA for Harbor Light. When the take shelter order was issued, our whole family was scared. All 7 of us are under one roof, 3 of us being healthcare workers. My father, a chiropractor in the city and business owner. Also my brother, who's a paramedic for GHOS and works in the ER. My mother has several pre-existing conditions, asthma, heart failure, just a few. To protect my mom, my father closed his business. My brother tried to stay upstairs as much as possible to cut the exposure to my mom. He even talked about getting a hotel in case he contracted it or worked with COVID patients. I myself had severe panic attacks, crying in the shower, not wanting to risk both my parents. We didn't know how hard it was going to hit us, but I knew I had a job to do, so we kept at it. With images coming across the news of China sending men in hazmat suits to spray the empty subways and sidewalks, and horrifying images from Italy's hospitals coming across the news, and hearing people leaving nursing homes unattended, finding their patients dead because no one would come to help them in fear of the virus. This was surreal. The fear that came with it was something we had never seen before. People clearing shelves of toilet paper and cleaning products and etc. Staying home unless you were an essential worker or had to go to the store or the hospital, etc. When my brother and I came home, we would strip at the back door, take our shoes off. We were trained to do that as protocol with dealing with contamination. After all, a virus is microscopically smaller compared to a bacteria, which is 200 times the size of a virus. I took none of this lightly. Knowing how long it could live on surfaces such as cardboard and plastic, it was a resilient bug. I was one of those people that went out and panic bought. I blew my whole check after hearing our state was going to be locked down. Fast forward to Thanksgiving of 2020, my dad tested positive for the virus, but by then we had seen that the virus wasn't as scary as what people were telling us. All worried about it still, he shared the same bed with my mom. Had a rough go with it, but no worse than the flu. My mom didn't catch it. And out of all of us, she was the biggest risk. This is where I personally drew the line. As months went by, my thought process changed. My distrust in our government is not only my personal issue. I know I'm not alone in that. Comparing my world now to what was then is totally more relaxed, yet COVID has not gone away. The last 2 months we have walked around with no masks, vaccinated or not. Because to be honest, I am not vaccinated. When I saw that posting around, I stopped wearing the mask. Who was going to ask me if I was vaccinated? I am not for masks because the evidence I have taken in myself, I have come to the conclusion that I'm safe without it. Given the fact I've traveled several times to East Coast and the West Coast, I've not cleaned crazily or regularly washed my mask. And if you think anyone else has, you're sadly mistaken. That I had watched them that I've been using to put on and take off. Which, in doing that, you're putting yourself at more risk. You're touching your face, your T-zone is your eyes, your nose, your mouth, those are all. I should have it by now, but I haven't had it. I refuse to put one back on myself, let alone my son, knowing what I know now. And in this decision, I'm not enrolling my son in this 2021 school year. We will be homeschooling. Where you give them an inch, they will take a mile.
Yep.
And just throwing this fact out there, more than 385,000 people attended this year's Lollapalooza, with the Delta variant raging through the U.S., which is not yet protected by the vaccine. So how are we able to have events at that magnitude? I encourage you all to stop and look around you and see what's going on. Because I, for one, I'm not playing Simon Says anymore.
Next speaker is Cathy Walton.
I'm a little shorty, so hopefully you can see me, but my name is Cathy Walton. I first wanted to thank the board for allowing me to share my thoughts and concerns here tonight. My hope and prayer is that the school year can get back to some semblance of normalcy, starting with masks being optional, regardless of vaccination status. These are personal medical decisions that affect a person's individual health. Our desire is that there would be no discrimination based on these medical choices. I believe that we as parents know what's best for our children, and we're fully capable to make these decisions, such as whether or not for them to receive a vaccine or to mask. For as long as our children have been in school, we have seen flu, virus, and strep run rampant. I remember there were years that there were 2-3 kids in a class because they were all sick. Never once did they have a requirement for masks, testing, quarantining, etc. However, this furthers the disruption of their education, especially if they're healthy. Missing a week or more of school simply by being around someone who tested positive is absolutely unnecessary, as we are exposed to hundreds of viruses daily. That is where proper hygiene, such as hand washing and taking care of our bodies, comes into importance. As parents, we simply refuse to treat our healthy children as if they are sick. Kids have enough to worry about on a daily basis. Many of them have anxiety just being at school. Put a mask on them, quarantine them, push a vaccine down their throat, and most kids aren't going to be able to handle it. Most adults are struggling with depression and anxiety because of all of this insanity. Our kids are truly the ones that are paying the price. This morning, several friends sent me a video of a school board meeting in Indiana where they were blessed to have a doctor speak. Dr. Dan Stock, specializing in immunology and family medicine, said, and I quote, "Masks simply do not work. The aerosols particles go through the masks." End quote. He said so much more, but my time here is short. If you'd like that video forwarded to you, I'd be happy to send it to anybody who wants to see it. The 3 parts of the body that are among the filthiest and filled with bacteria, number 1 on that list is your mouth. It's filled with over 600 different types of bacteria. Number 2 is the tongue. Bacteria sticks firmly to the tongue, and if you don't brush it along with your teeth, it'll stay there for years. Thirdly is the nasal cavity. Whenever you breathe with your nose, you put all kinds of bacteria in and out of it. So where's it all going? Into this mask. What are we breathing? All that bacteria. Makes no sense when we're trying to get away from that, right? Although you cannot spot it, bacteria stays in your nose unless you clean it daily. And let's face it, I don't know anybody that does that. I also wanted to note, which I think I've heard here tonight, that Governor Pritzker's mandates are not enforceable. The mandates are not laws. The governor he cannot pull funding because of you guys not complying with the mandate. They're merely suggestions. We as a community need to do what's best for our children, so please hear us, all the parents that are speaking for the well-being of the children by making masks optional this school year. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ryan Scout, and I believe he is outside. If we could have someone. Scout.
Ryan Scout.
Good.
Yep, go right ahead.
Mr. Scout.
Thank you.
Since you haven't been in here, I'm going to go over the instructions for comments to the Board of Education. Just make sure that what you're speaking about is germane to the role and function of the Board of Education. Give your name, and we ask you to refrain from making any personal comments regarding any individual. And you get 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Scout, and I am a new school board member of Knoxville 202's district. I am also an 8-year Army veteran. I am here today to help highlight the main duties of being a school board member and to let these brave folks know a mask optional plan is still able to be voted into place for this upcoming school year. We cannot give in to these false threats being made by our insurance companies, our school attorneys, and most of all, our state leader. So, what do school boards do? There's 3 pretty much primary things that they do. The first thing, they set the vision of the goals for the district. They also are the board members and the board members alone are the ones that set the policies for the district in the direction that they need to be heading to achieve their goals. And thirdly, they are there to hire, evaluate the superintendent, and take action as they see fit. Nowhere in these duties does it say that we let our superintendents dictate our policies. The superintendent works for you and the people of this community. His job is to advise the board, and then his job is to be the voice of the board. He should not be promoting and pushing his own agendas. As a new member, I am finding that this is a disturbing trend completely across the entire state, including in my own district. Remember, you are the ones that set these policies and no one else. Not the teachers, not the superintendent, and not the principals. We need to take back full control in order to fully protect our kids from this complete broken system. The basic function of the school board today remains the same, to provide local citizen control over our education at a point as close to the parent and child as possible. Now, how do we achieve the mask optional plan? There's been many stating the HB 2789 I've heard in here tonight, which is supposed to give the power to the ISB and the IDPH, but it's still pending in Senate. It has not been passed, so therefore there is no existing authority at all in the enforcing of new mandates under that bill. The Constitution of the State of Illinois, Section 11. The governor is citing that this is a mandate that is basing his decisions on, but the governor lacks the authority to make or enforce new mask mandates through this section. It is the legislative branch that is the side of government that would create the new mandates, not the executive branch. And one more final note, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency Act, Section 7, the governor also cites this act for his authority. Unfortunately, this emergency act does not give the governor any authority to create new regulations on our kids either. This act gives JB the power to suspend statutes for rules, orders, and mandates. However, it does not give the governor the authority to once again create new regulations and mandates. This IEMAA is 100% subject to only current law. It is not subject to anything that has not been passed through what they're trying to say is the HB 2789. There is no authority there that they're trying to scare us with at all. Now let's tackle the three main monsters that the school board members really fear is the liability and the funding and recognition. I know that everything's been talked about a little bit about this, but these three things, they do not fall and they're not legally binding because there is no current law in place to be able to force that mandate. The gross negligence is completely impossible to prove because you cannot prove where COVID came from. So board members, if you're worried about individually being sued, know that they will not be able to prove because we just had how many people at Lollapalooza? How many people did we have at Dave Matthews Band last weekend at Chicago? Mississippi Valley Fair. I can guarantee that almost all of our kids were there all weekend long, 25,000 fans, elbow to elbow, without any residual effects coming out of it. It is time to do the right thing and stand up against these falsified threats. Where to begin? Having the knowledge of this information shows that the power still lies in the local authorities' hands. This mandate is not legal and not enforceable. The mandate is not backed by data and seems to be doing more harm. School board members need to remember this saying when you are feeling unsure. No more fear-based decisions. As a former soldier, we were taught that no matter what the obstacle, no matter what the adversity, it is our duty to face that fear and press forward and complete our mission. And it is that time today. I would like to call all of my fellow military veterans that are out there to stand up for our kids. We were trained to lead from the front, and I believe it is that time again. Let's lead our fellow citizens through these dark times and show them that we do have the power. Stand up for the right of our kids. That is all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Moving on to the agenda. We now have presentations to the board. Solar presentation, I'm going to defer to Dr. Esplin for that one.
Dan is your, no, I know Dan's here, but is it just you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Peter's not here. Okay, so Dan Griffin from our solar company, Clean Energy Design Group, is going to come up and give an update on projects that have not yet been done, and is going to talk briefly about some of the concerns that have been brought up to us about maintaining the systems that we already have in place.
Thanks for having me tonight. Let's start with the new system that's going to go in place just over in the field where the existing system is now. That's scheduled to start approximately October 15th, and that should be completed by the end of the year. Fenced, everything ready to go.
Doesn't that wrap around the building, or did that get changed?
Yes, it does. It goes back behind the building, but we were able to increase the size of the panels, so we didn't have to put anything on the roof. And still stay within the footprint. So that's, technology's allowed us to get bigger panels, more power, and we're able to condense it.
So Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you reiterate to everybody what this current project is?
Certainly.
Because it's different than the other project.
Yes. So this is what's called a Solar for All program. the solar that's generated from this system goes directly to the utility, unlike the other systems in town that all go behind the meter. As a result of it going directly to the utility, we're able to let the school subscribe to an ultra-low utility rate for 15 to 20 years. The rest of the subscription, the 75%, would go out for individual subscriptions to a variety of low-income areas throughout the state, not just in Galesburg. Of course, the idea is to focus on Galesburg.
We were promised initially that we'd have an opportunity to sign people up this past fall when they registered for school. And it seems that your company didn't deliver on that, or whoever was supposed to be doing that. Why didn't that happen?
Well,
we expected to subscribe people when they started school.
That's coming.
But school's starting here in a few weeks.
Well, but the agency that governs that are changing some of the rules, and we're in the midst of making sure that we're in compliance with that. So as soon as that becomes available, we have actually 1 year from the time the system's energized to obtain subscriptions. And then we have another year after that to obtain additional subscriptions. So there's still plenty of time to get local folks involved in the subscription process.
Because I agreed to this under the assumption we'll not offer it to the citizens of Illinois, but the citizens of Galesburg. And so if we don't, and your first comment was if you open to everyone. We're not giving up our land to everyone. We're giving our land to the people who own that land, the citizens of Galesburg.
I went general and then I went specific.
Okay.
But that's the plan, certainly.
I'm just very concerned that things aren't already happening the way we were told. This was assumed to have happened already. We'd be able to subscribe people already, and that hasn't happened. So why should I think that what you're telling me now is going to happen?
We can't make subscriptions until the system's energized. The system, we had planned on a June, July energization period. That all got pushed back because of steel delays, because of COVID. So we can't do anything until we get the system up in operation.
Is the steel available? You told me October now. Where's the steel right now?
It's somewhere on a freighter, hopefully coming toward the United States. Yeah.
You mentioned an agency that's changing the rules. What agency are you referring to?
That is it's the Illinois Power Authority. And then there's another company that governs the program, which is called Elevate. And we are in the process of getting additional definitions explained and secured because they tend to kind of move around, but depending on who you ask. So we're getting it nailed down so that we are approaching the right groups and the right areas that they fall into that we're able to offer the correct subscription.
Okay. Excuse me, but that does sound a bit vague. And I kind of wonder, you mentioned two separate things. One of them being that an agency changes the rules, and the other one, steel delays on a boat out somewhere. As for the reasons that the solar panels haven't been energized, which one is it?
Well, the ideal, the start date was June or July, which we should complete in about 2 months, and that's been pushed back till October because of delay in getting the steel piles.
So what's this array out here that I've been watching for months?
That's a totally different system.
Is it energized?
Yeah, certainly. Yep. providing power to the school.
The solar arrays just south of this building are energized?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I thought there should be a fence around that
Well, it's very confusing.
for the safety of people living around here.
We're gonna enclose the entire system, but since we're delayed, that's why the fence didn't go up as planned.
So is it safe?
Certainly.
So what's the purpose of the fence then? Is it to protect people from getting hurt, or is it to protect the solar panels, or?
It's really at the discretion of the area in which it's located.
So there's no risk to anybody being injured?
No.
From the solar panels, or?
No, there's more of a risk of theft or vandalism, or which we have incurred in some locations. But they actually have a system on display in a hospital grounds in Rutland, Vermont, to encourage people to go up and look at it. So I mean, there's really no safety factor whatsoever there.
So to summarize, you're telling us that you believe that it will be energized by the end of the calendar year?
Yes.
If steel deliveries are happening more in line with what you think they're gonna happen now?
We've been confirmed that, or we've had confirmation that the physical steel is en route.
And do you believe that all the other regulatory issues have been resolved in terms of how you get subscriptions, who can get subscriptions?
Yes.
And you've told us before, how many roughly households can get subscriptions off of this array?
We've got, so in simple numbers, 25% of the system can go directly to the school district, which would then obviously leave 75% to go out to individuals in the community.
So do they subscribe by amount of kilowatt hours that they use, or is it by household, just a house to house to house, or do they do it by square footage, or how does it work?
It's a good question. The subscription would be based on how much they use at their household. And then they would, obviously not subscribe more than that, but that's, and then there's a minimum basis of 200 kilowatt hours a year. Anything above that, or not a year, per month, anything above that, you would be eligible for the subscription.
Thank you. And so once it's erected, it would be fenced?
Immediately.
Are the solar panels currently in the possession of your firm then?
Yes. Yeah, the only hang up is the steel. And that's not a hang up anymore. It's just the latest.
And so you also have an update about Silas Willard?
Yes. We've got the, we can bring up the picture of it. There we go.
Can you go back to the first page of that, please? There, were we not supposed to see this a little bit lower, please? One line down.
Peter's name.
Yeah. Were we not supposed to see a Peter Maros at this meeting? Maros today?
He was on his way down, was involved in an automobile accident.
That's the same thing we heard a year ago when this contract. He was on his way down and got detained.
Well, I often wonder if anybody can be that unlucky. But I've got the text.
I wonder too.
Exactly. Yes.
This does not inspire confidence.
Well, we'll get it done and you'll be satisfied.
I'm sorry, go on, please.
So, we're proposing a carport in this location, obviously this location, and then a long one along the back side at the time, the parking lot wasn't here. And so we just placed them where, per Dr. Aspen, where the parking lot, so that's what's proposed, at the location.
And when would that be done?
Those, that project should start somewhere around November. There's a lot of prep work, a lot of foundations, gotta do geotech. We've gotta confirm that all the location, everything's good, but that's, we'd like to get that started in November.
And then how long do you think that process will take?
That should be about 2.5 months to 3 months, depending on weather delays. Once the canopies go up, very quickly after that, that's the big challenge.
And those are fixed?
Yes.
And automobiles can park under all three of those?
Correct, yes. And that power from those panels will be connected to Silas, and that will physically offset energy that the school building has to purchase from the utility company, 1-for-1.
And then you also said you were going to come and update on the physical upkeep of the other arrays that we have as well.
May
I ask a question before you leave this?
Certainly.
What's the amount of power, kilowatts coming out of this array?
That's a 80 kW size system, 80,000 watts. On the grounds upkeep, we've obviously been challenged. We're getting that more and more under control as far as the mowing and weed management, so forth. I do apologize. It's been, like I said, it's been a challenge. We have a new, we've done some things here recently that should drastically help the weeds around the actual piles, along the fence areas. That should all be going away. And then just get it to where it looks better than the surrounding grass area around every one of the projects. I do apologize. I'm not, but we'll get a handle on it. We're starting to already. You'll see some pretty drastic improvements.
I'll see no further questions. Thank you for your time and the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. On behalf of the people in the audience, does the board anticipate any action on the public comments tonight?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on, next point on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments, or concerns by board members? Allison?
Hernandez.
Aye.
Ryan.
Yes.
Seth.
Aye.
Rodriguez. Aye. Turkey.
Aye.
Westcott. Aye. Fletcher. Aye.
Okay. Next on the agenda is focus area 1, relevant skills that lead to employability. The curriculum report. Ms. Stern.
You have my report in front of you. If there are questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we're just planning and preparing for the school year.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. Next is the special education report.
Again, you have my report in front of you. There is one correction. Our CPI behavior training takes place August 17th through the 19th and August 24th through the 26th, not the 16th. Also, the behavior committee met last Wednesday. I felt like we had a good meeting. Best Tab, do you have any comments on the committee meeting? We met and really did a deep dive scrub on the procedures that we have in place. Right now, they're back out to the committee to look at those to make sure that they were done right and hopefully have it to the board in September.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the building reports. Dr. Aspley.
Thank you. You have the building reports in front of you. What I did want to add is when we have our board retreat this Wednesday, I did tell the administrative team last week we would be discussing what kind of format we want to see for building reports this year, which we can change from time to time, but in general, it's good to have a standardized format. So just be thinking about the types of data that you want the principals reporting on each month, and so we have that conversation. On Wednesday, we can start to better inform the principals on how we want those reports to look.
I think one comment in the reports, everyone reported how many students were taking part in the Jumpstart program, and they said how many were invited and how many participated. But I guess I don't know if this was what you were expecting, or higher or lower, or that degree of.
It runs in line with what our typical, used to be called summer school, percentage of invitations versus attendance would be. It also, I'm painting with a broad brush here, but many of the students that did not attend were also students that we had severe attendance issues as documented by the outreach programs this year.
I'd also like to add, I believe Mr. Hawkins and maybe Ms. Ritchie included this, but we offered 2 separate sessions for our high schoolers, which actually benefited us greatly in getting more students to have some of those credit recovery opportunities that previously scheduled in past years.
Good. Moving on, next on the agenda is the enrollment and registration report.
Thank you. Well, you have the report. Registration right now, we still have many families that have not registered, although the numbers have increased greatly in the last, I would say, 3 weeks in terms of who has registered. We did 2 different data runs by neighborhood so that we could see if there was any specific neighborhood that was having trouble. I guess maybe it's a good thing or a bad thing, but no, I mean, it's all over. So, I mean, it's kind of widespread where people haven't registered yet. So, we still have gotten the word out and tried to get people registered, and I know in the last probably week, it's really accelerated because it's getting closer to school, and people just didn't feel a sense of urgency because there wasn't really a need to get it done, but now they are seeing that sense of urgency. So if anybody's out there listening right now that is not registered, please make plans to do so, so that we can appropriately plan for how many sections of each class we need.
Any questions?
Registration is still, it's all online still, or can people do it in person at some time?
If they come in here, we could set them up with a computer, but we encourage them to do it online. Once a lot of parents found out that they could do it on their phone, it became much easier for them to do it. Maybe we need to do a better job in the future of broadcasting. You can do it on your phone, but that was a big hiccup for some people that they felt like.
I couldn't do it on my phone, but.
Well, the same you. But yeah, that was a big issue for some parents.
We also have some outreach events that are happening in the next couple weeks as well with the City of Galesburg Housing Authority, where we're going to be having district employees go out and assist with registration for anyone who may have trouble navigating the Chromebook or not be able to come into the district office to do that.
Great. Glad to hear that.
Okay. Moving on, focus area 2, facilities that assist in skill acquisition. The Building and Grounds Committee report. Who do we have to do that?
Robbie's
I'm taking it.
Okay, Member Phelps.
So.
Go on.
You want me to go up there?
Yeah, I want you to go up there.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch
it.
You just tell Alice, she'll help you.
So I will say we did have a building committee today, met at the high school, the GHS project, and did a tour. I know there's all negativity and everybody's, what are we going to do here or there. I can tell you that this project is amazing, and it's coming together to where your students, 7 through 12, when they get in there, It's going to be an experience like no other. And I can tell you, me being in there, I was like, wow, why didn't I have this? It's impressive. It has a long way to go. So bear with us. Whether you believe COVID or not, COVID is something a lot of people hide behind, I feel. And so a lot of this project has been stalled because the slow boat from China, the spaceship didn't arrive, you name it. And so the project is, we will still have a school schedule, start like we talked, but high school is going to be a few days for children will be in there. So the fun part of this is the flooring that'll be in the classrooms, and it's already starting in. And so you've got 3 different color grades or changes in what you see there. We funnily talk about it's the railroad track that goes through the classroom, but every center of the room will have this color scheme. Also, you're seeing the rooms will have what I'm going to call, I'm not an interior designer, but color changes to pull the room together. So you're going to see the yellows, you're going to see the grays, you're going to see the silvers. It brings the rooms all together. So next one, please. So here you're seeing one of the bathrooms, and I guess I really didn't realize how old and not updated that building was until you get in there and you see what it was and what it is now. Here's the new windows. This is looking out, all new windows in the front. So if you've been down Fremont Street lately, you can see the new windows. When you're on the outside looking in, they are kind of a tinted look. When you're inside looking out, you don't see that. It's a clear. It's really cool. It's a very, very, very good upgrade. Here's one of the ceilings that we have the new LED lighting that's very efficient and very bright. It's a lot of natural light appeal in the classroom. Next. We'll go to this one first. So all the lighting grids, what's really cool, I have to visualize stuff. They put it on paper and that doesn't tell me anything. I got to see it. So all the lighting grids will be on an angle. Instead of your mundane straight, they're going to run at an angle. And then they also, with new LEDs, there won't, right here is one of them. And so you'll have a light about every 5 foot, but then you have offsetting tiles. It's really a cool look. What hallway is this, Maureen?
That's it. Old GHS North.
So if you're familiar with GHS North, on the east side of the building, that's this hallway coming here. Little theater would be in here. And that part we were in today, and that's coming along really nice. That'll all be done and ready to roll. You can just see the brightness of the walls, the lockers. Everything is going to be bright and nice. Next. So here's what's really cool, and it's hard to get perspective of what's going on here until you see it. The old original school, imagine, is right here. This is going out 130 feet on out from what used to be the vocational wing, and that is more classrooms than that. So the circle that you used to be able to go around the school is no more. That's gone. Here's your field house, put it in perspective. I'm telling you folks, that old vocational wing today is cool. It is, the kids are going to love it. The teachers are going to love it. It is amazing. And then when we get this done, it just adds more to it. Here's looking back at the school. That's the Circle Drive used to go right here. So it gives you perspective. Here's Wycall. So it gives you perspective of what we're doing there. That won't come on to us until 22 sometime. So we won't need that completed to open school. Okay, so I told you how cool it was. These are the hallway windows in the old vocational wing that are in the hall. Then you've got the windows on the backside for natural light. And then you've got the way the ceiling is, it's pretty cool. It's really, and this allows light in from the hall, and then you've got light coming from the back. But that's what the windows will look like in the classrooms in the old vocational hall. This, help me, Maury, that's
the interior hallway opposite the science rooms.
On the east side of the
on the east side, looking into the courtyard.
Right.
Cleaned all of this up with tile. Will there be new windows there, guys?
No, we replaced those 25 years ago.
Okay, yeah, only 25 years ago.
There is
but we are
25 years here.
cleaning things up, giving it a good fresh look. Next. This is looking out the whole, if you've been down Fremont Street, is this the whole into the?
Yes, that's going from the commons looking out.
So the Performing Arts Center would be over here.
Yep.
And this is looking south. There'll be windows in there when they get all done, but the Performing Arts Center is back here, what you would have known as the auditorium. And then this coming out in here will be all commons where the children will get their food out of the servery. And for everybody listening, the only time the 7 and 8s will potentially mingle with 9 through 12 is when they would get their food, but otherwise.
No, that's not true.
No.
We're going to have a serving line upstairs for the 7, 8.
So the only time they may ever cross is after school and they're going to extracurricular whatever. Yeah. Otherwise, during the day, they're separated. And the 7, 8 will be on second floor. That's absolutely amazing. There's a commons up there now that overlooks down below in front of what used to be the auditorium. Very impressive. When we're in there today, I don't know who the people are that are going to do the ceiling, but they've got to be paid a lot of money. And they're going all the way up. It'll all be new, clear up in the, if you remember the old auditorium, you had those old catwalks. They're going to go above that. I mean, it's crazy. Here is what used to be the old boiler room. Well, here's the new heating, cooling that used to be down in this dungeon of a room here. Here they are, the new ones. Next. So this is the Performing Arts Center. So, Maury, you got to help me on this one.
Looking out from the stage.
Right.
Yeah, so the stage is here, and you're looking then up where the seating will be up there. This goes out to the new band and choir room out to the south, and then you're going to have, here's your doors coming in to the performing arts.
And the middle there in that picture, they have just the base level for the sound and light room.
Yeah, right
back there.
right here. So this sound and light room is going to go up
all the way to the top.
all the way to the top, and it's going to be amazing. It really is.
That's from the
So
second
this is
floor.
looking. So we're on second story here. So this will be commons area. I told you on second floor, and this down here is what you would see behind that wall. It's looking down, and this just shows you the magnitude of how massive this place is. Because here's your ceiling that used to be in the auditorium, and they haven't closed this in yet because then they're going to pour. There'll be a wall here. So the children can't launch over, basically. But this is where the commons will be for the 7/8. That's it.
Your enthusiasm is so exciting.
Is this supposed to be for this school year coming? I mean, is it going to be done?
Okay.
Well, yeah,
maybe
generally-
we should you talk about the schedule.
Well, generally, we don't take questions from the
From the PDI?
but yeah. But I will let member Ryan.
That's good, Ronnie.
Well, Lee, why don't you speak to it better? Lee represents Russell, who's the contract manager firm on this project, and their job is to kick everyone and wherever they need kicked so they get the job done. and it's happening. Why don't you describe what we're gonna have available September when the students arrive?
Yeah, so great question. So as you can see, it's a massive undertaking, a lot of square footage, a lot of space that we're remodeling. And it's gonna be a phased turnover. So what you're gonna, to turn over for students, when they do come back in, it's gonna be, mainly we call it the 57 wing. It's a 2-story original core, where the classrooms are, the administrative, you come in the main entrance, there's the administrative office, and as you work around that courtyard, that's kind of that 2-story section, so we'll have students in there. Area, I guess it'd be the old GHS North Wing. Those 2-story area there, those classrooms to the north side, those will be turned over here this fall. And then the science wing, that's right off in that same area on first floor. There's 4 science classrooms that'll be in that. And then as we go up towards the art room, the existing art rooms, there's 3 art rooms that are there that'll be turned over. So that's kind of the main core, along with the gymnasium, that's gonna be turned over this fall. As we go, we did it in the kitchen. That was a previous phase that will be obviously active, and then the old band and choir as well. That's the kind of fall turnover. Later on this, I said it's winter, into Christmas time frame, we're gonna be looking at the existing media center. That area is getting turned over with the life skills space. So life skills is moving into where GHS North was. That old commons, if you've been familiar with the area, that's gonna be life skills. So life skills, I believe, and Dr. Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, is gonna be located in Roseholden, I wanna say, or somewhere north.
Yes, that's.
When they start the school year, and then at some point during the school year, once we get that commons done and ready for life skills, they can move in there at that point. And then we're looking towards the end of this calendar year into this winter, will be the rest of the vocational wing will become available. I'm not sure when they'll move staff in there or not, because right now the new buildings are being set up for 7 through 12, and we're not having 7 through 12 there this calendar year, so that we're kind of moving some students around. Through next spring is when we're going to be looking at the late spring, April timeframe. I was trying to get the Performing Arts Center online, along with the band and choir edition. So we've had a lot of material delay issues with steel and different things with that addition up front. The one in the back that we're working towards, we had that procured earlier on, so that helped with that schedule. So that's it's a multi-phase. So we really have the main core for this fall. We have some other ancillary space in the media center wing, and the old vocational wing coming online this winter. And then late spring will be the remaining space. And that's kind of what we're looking at for the schedule.
Do you know when you'll be breaking ground for the new band and choir room?
I don't have a date offhand. I would say in the next few weeks. I know the concrete contractor was focusing on the area A, which is the new 712 or 1012 edition. And then they're pouring Circle Drive this week, which is the West Circle Drive outside the gymnasium, and they're jumping over to that edition. So.
Is that what we ended up naming it, West Circle Drive?
Yes. Okay. So yeah, West Circle Drive, they had the curb and gutter all poured there, and then they'll be pouring off paving Wednesday, Thursday, is my understanding. Any weather, which I think weather looks good, so that's a positive there. And they're going to be jumping over to doing some curb islands in the parking lot to help with traffic flow and drop off. The parental drop off will be West Circle Drive. Will be do the final turnover. Bus drop off will be in the front. So.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, thank you. Next on the agenda, we need a motion to consider approval of a change order for additional floor prep.
Oh, second. Lee.
Well, so as we go through and we put flooring down for the different areas, we've done moisture tests as we have to do before lay flooring. A lot of the space on the 57 areas above crawl space, so we have no issues there. The one area we did have issues with moisture was area J, which is the old GHS North and.
That was the library edition from 74.
Yes. So if you're familiar with that area, it's all slab on grade, and we have to be around 40% relative humidity in the slab, and when we did tests, we're at 90%.
Oh.
So well over the relative humidity for that area. So the solution is there's a topical floor sealing product that you can put down. And we did that into the project because we didn't know that issue existed. And instead of having it assume that you do it everywhere, we carry allowances. So then we had a $15,000 allowance for potential moisture mitigation. We did not anticipate the whole area J being there, and that a lot of that area is added for change order later. So as part of this change order, I think pull up the exact dollar amount for that.
For J?
Yeah, for J, it's $79,280 is the change order for that area to seal that so we can put flooring down and maintain a warranty.
Now, Lee, is the Commons, the current former GH North Commons, that's also on snow, it's built up because it used to be inclined, so that doesn't have that problem.
Right, that is not the problem, because my understanding, and I haven't dug into the specifics there, but I think they demoed the slab and reported it when they pulled that down, because it was
It was like the other.
it was built down, right, or something. Yeah, so that was reported at that point, so that was, with, I guess for your education purposes, any new floor slab we do nowadays, we put paper barrier down first. That helps for groundwater that can't seep up through the existing slab. So all your new slabs have, paper barrier put underneath. Back in the 70s, that was not a common construction technique. And back then, the adhesives were made of different materials that were a lot more oil-based and did not fail with moisture. A lot of the low VOC or environmentally friendly adhesives don't do well with moisture and tend to fail. The other part of this change order is, as the years have gone on, they've done floor leveling and multiple layers of floor coverings. And so as we demo it up, some of that floor leveling compound is come up in chunks and it's very uneven. So we've had to go in and need to do additional grinding of floor prep to make it smooth for the new flooring. And that's mostly on second floor area G, H, and D, which is the 57 wing. The other areas, for the most part, have been pretty good, but the second floor, for some reason, has been really, and Maury and Dr. Esplin and Rodney have walked it, have seen it, it's pretty rough.
I will say the ones they've done are beautiful.
Right.
The ones they've resurfaced.
Yeah, so.
They've done a wonderful job doing that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's different ways of approaching this. We try to do it as the most cost effective in the district as you can assume that all areas need this amount of prep in old buildings and build it in, so they assume prepping every floor, which what we found in our experience, that's not common. So you can spend a lot more money for no reason. So what we tend to do is recommend that you kind of hold back on the additional prep until you find out you need it, and then spend it at that point. So in your contract, every floor is skim coated up to 1/8 of an inch, which is typical. And so these are only the areas that are beyond 1/8 of an inch variance. So you can imagine that's pretty rough. So that's $55,776 for the additional floor prep. So all in, change order to the flooring contractor is $135,056. So obviously that's what we like to do, want to do. We try to mitigate that during the bidding process to not have them assume all the risk up front, so you're getting better bids. But then if we do run into these things, this is when I get to come and talk to you guys in front of the board. So
is this TSI is who we approved? So this is the original flooring company, correct?
Yep. And they're also the flooring company for the next phase as well. So
okay. And time-wise, they're going to be able to keep their timeline on this.
Yeah, so they've the plan is for them to start doing the moisture mitigation later this week after approval, and they've started doing some of the additional floor prep based on the schedule we've had, discussed it with them, and keeping track on ticket if need be. Yeah, they should be able to track that. The additional floor prep and moisture mitigation actually had to bring in a separate company in that does that out of Chicago. So.
And these numbers make sense to you and your pricing people?
They did. I checked with our pre-construction department as they deal with this daily, day in and day out, and they're in range with what they see for moisture mitigation. So, floor prep.
Talking about Chicago, I know this winter those modulars going to disappear up there on the north side. Because they had to bring drivers in from Chicago to even get what's out of there now.
That's a great question. I'm not sure the answer. I can try to get back with them and try to understand what the timeline is. I know.
It'd be nice for those to be gone.
I agree, yeah. We pushed hard to make sure they're out of the way for the addition, so we can keep going on that, and it seems like they kind of stalled out, so.
Okay, seeing no further questions, Allison?
Ryan?
Yes.
Seth?
Aye.
Rodriguez?
Aye.
Chirpy?
Aye.
Westham?
Aye.
Fetcher? Aye. Cervantes?
Aye.
Okay, next on the agenda, a discussion on the ISP requirements for COVID response. Dr. Asple?
Thank you. Well, fortunately, and I didn't tell him ahead of time, but I knew he's prepared. Fortunately, we do have an attorney that does come to the meeting, so I thought first might be a good idea to just have Luke give a broad overview of the situation we're facing legally.
Sure. So the situation you're changing is, I would say, dynamic. ISB and IDPH released joint guidance on Friday, and then took the link down. They have re-released that guidance as of this afternoon.
Is that what this is?
That is what that is. I believe that reposted somewhere around 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I have not had the ability to review that yet. So I'm not going to speak to the specifics in the updated guidance. Happy to answer any questions that the board has. I'm not sure how much background you want. From our way of looking at this, the situation is not terribly different to what this board and other boards faced last year, last summer at this time, when school districts were looking at reopening plans, and a number of school districts litigated some of the questions that are on the table at this point. So far, none of those cases were successful for the presumptions that they brought. The governor's office has largely won all the litigation that's been brought regarding his authority under executive orders and for mask mandates. So the situation is slightly different now, but for the most part, the issues are largely the same. I mean, certainly we're a year later, but the litigation against the governor's office has not been successful to date.
Thank you. So I just briefly, what I would like to make sure we kind of center the discussion. The surveys that we did get last year and the feedback that we got last year, while there was a lot of different opinions out there about a lot of different things, in general, I think the biggest thing that was told to us time and again was that people wanted their kids in school, okay? And that the remote learning, while beneficial for some, in general was not well received because it was just not a able replacement for what we're used to having kids in school in classrooms with each other. So we had put together a working group that will still need to meet, but part of the problem is that we're here on part 5 of guidance, and it's we're getting updates like weekly now. So when is the last one? It becomes very difficult on what's the latest guidance. But we were putting together a working group to want to make sure that we had students in school every day. Okay, and so one of the biggest hurdles of students in school every day is the requirement for how we have to do contact tracing and how we have to isolate students that are either deemed to be sick or deemed to be a close contact with someone who is sick. And so we were strongly considering either a mask for those that were unvaccinated or mask optional, with having everybody understand what the ramifications of that could be, because we would see more students having to be sent home because of how the contact tracing had to happen. So about last week, as we all know, the governor put forth a mandate that said that we had to require masks. Obviously, we heard from a lot of folks tonight who feel that that is not enforceable. The information that we've gotten from our insurance company, the information that we've gotten from LUDA, the information that we've gotten from legal, has been that those mandates need to be followed. And LUDA stands for Large Unit District Association, sorry. Any school over 4,000 students in a I'm sorry, 3,600 students. But anyway, I digress. So, at this point in time, the information that we've gotten is that there isn't an option. But what we obviously have to stay dynamic in that process and see what we can do if given guidance that we can loosen that. Right now, it seems pretty cut and dry to us. But we hope that it changes because we would like for people to be healthy. We'd like it to be circumstances that we can give people flexibility because there are concerns about a lot of different things that we're facing this year. But I think I want to go back to the biggest concern was that having kids in school every day. So that is the plan. So we are going to have kids in school on a regular schedule all day long. That is definitely part. And the state board has said you have to, even if that wasn't what you wanted to do, but that is what we want to do. So that's the plan we're moving forward with. The mask guidance, as it stands right now, does not seem to give us a lot of wiggle room. But we do know there's a lot of folks that would like to see that change. So I guess I'll leave it at that and leave it up to discussion.
Do any board members have any questions? Okay. Well, it is 9 o'clock, the magic hour, so. Oh, we got more than one more thing.
Well,
And then-
for this area.
Yeah, 9 o'clock, Maury generally likes us to take
It's always my fault.
take a little break, so
Wait,
we're gonna recess for 5 minutes, good?
Yep.
Do a 5-minute recess, and we'll be back at 9:05. 9:07, we're back in order. Next on the agenda is future use of vacated buildings and discussion. Dr. Esplin.
Thank you. So, as you're all aware, we no longer inhabit Nielsen, Gale, or Churchill. Now, well, we won't inhabit Churchill in the future, so thank you for the correction. We don't recommend disposing of Gale as it sits on our 712, soon to be 712 campus. It's probably not a prudent use of space for somebody else. We'd like to keep that, but Churchill down the road, we're going to need to figure out what to do with that. But more expediently, we'd like to have some guidance on what you'd like to see us do with Nielsen. So if we are going to sell it, there are specific rules governing how you would do that. There are a few options you can take. The one I would recommend is sealed bid, where you would advertise to the community that there's a property that we're willing to sell, and the sealed bid amount has to have a minimum, and we would state a minimum. So, at this time, we feel like we are in a place where we could move in that direction with Nielsen. We'll have to have a discussion later about Churchill, but would like to know the board's feelings, and the Building and Grounds Committee asked us to put this on the agenda to kickstart the conversation. So we'd like to know the board's feelings in terms of if we would like to sell it, the timing of it, and just what work you want to see us get done in what time manner.
Yes, we would like you to sell it and now.
Yesterday.
Yep. We're not doing anything with it. Somebody else get some good use out of it.
So, what is a value of that property? I mean, what's it worth?
Assess, don't we?
I think it would be a good idea to at least get some realtor solicited opinions just to get.
Comparables, though.
Yeah. Well, if you've all ever bought a house, come on, your comparables are all over the place, and then they get assessed. It's magically at whatever you're selling it for. So, I don't know that that's money well spent. I think if we went to, a realtor or two and asked them what's the square footage for this, and then we could just extrapolate it out along with the acreage that's there. I think just
6 acres, is that correct?
I thought it was 8, but maybe it is 6. I have to go back and look. But I think it would be a good idea to at least get those opinions from realtors, get a couple realtors' opinions, and just move forward at least with that, and be able to come back next month and say, hey, this is what they think we should put it on the market for, and then we could talk about the process.
Is there anything, so that land back in the day in the 70s was donated to the district by the Nielsen family?
Correct.
Is there anything anywhere that says if the district wants to sell that or whatever, that they have right of first refusal, or it goes back to the family, or is there anything?
So it's a great question, and I'm super thankful to Mr. Jim Jacobs. If you're listening, thank you very much. He asked that question months ago, and so Allison went out to our storage facility and found the board minutes from when they actually donated the land, and no, there's no restriction. So we can do whatever we wish with that within the confines of the law. And once again, thank you to Mr. Jacobs for asking us that question, because now we absolutely know the answer.
Jen, were you with us when we sold Cook?
No, that was before
Because that building's under half the size. And I believe you sold that for $300,000. And we sold Allen Park 15 years ago. I think we sold that for $300,000 as well.
Reoccurring theme.
I think the real estate values have increased considerably since then. It's a nice piece of land and easy to get to. New bridge. I would assume that the value would be far north of $300,000.
Well, and when you put a minimum on the bid requirement, if the sealed bids come in and they're not at the minimum for whatever reason, I don't know why someone would do that, but if it happened, we can then turn it over to a broker, but I believe they have to be within, is it 20%, Luke?
So if you are allowed in your resolution authorizing sale, which then triggers a notice provision, you can in your notice state a minimum bid. If you do not receive bids above the minimum, the statute allows you to list the property with a realtor. Statute actually uses the term broker, but you can list with a realtor. The catch is that the realtor has a defined time period to sell the property. I believe it's 120 days, and they have to sell it at or above the minimum. So there's a little bit of it's a little bit of an art project in what's the appropriate minimum. You don't want to set it so high that you don't receive any bids, and then the realtor can't sell it at that price either. But the realtor would have 120 days. If it doesn't sell then you have to start the process over. So the initial bids have to be preceded by 3 consecutive weeks of publication in a local paper. So it's all kickstarted by a resolution. The exception to that would be any transfer to another unit of local government. So the school code has this very strict publication and essentially auction, and that can be a sealed bid auction. Those rules go out the window if you're dealing with another public body. So that is an option as well.
And just so we're covering this base now, and I doubt this would happen, but I feel like we need to cover it. What if some entity that wanted to buy it that was somebody we didn't want to sell to? Then what, do you just throw out all bids?
That's where the school code gives you virtually no flexibility other than rejecting all bids. The municipal code is slightly different. Municipalities are allowed to consider future use and development. Unfortunately, the school code does not give you that discretion. So you either sell to the high bid or reject all bids.
See, a number of years ago, we sold a number of buildings that have gone to disrepair and are an embarrassment to the community. So we would have no ability to put provisions in there that unless, if it's developed by X number of days, we could buy it back or something. I mean, I'm thinking of, I worked at Stone School for a number of years. It makes me sad to drive by that school. I see what Weston School, is now for sale again, where the Illinois Bible College was. I mean, it's not good to our community if someone doesn't develop it. So we would lose the ability to do anything then?
I don't disagree with the concern at all. It's a standing concern of school boards around the state. If you're disposing of school property, the last thing you want is a school building to become an eyesore. There's nothing in the statute that explicitly authorizes you to put those types of contingencies in. It does happen from time to time. I'm not aware that it's ever been litigated. There's also a slight practical problem. Assuming you put either survival language in the contract or a provision in the deed that if conditions X, Y, and Z aren't met within a certain time period, that the property would revert back to the school district. This is solely a hypothetical. If you did that, the practical problem is that those conditions, X, Y, and Z, have to be extremely clear-cut and specific so that there's no argument of did they or didn't they meet the conditions. The other practical problem is now you would be sort of inheriting property that may or may not have been encumbered in the period that you didn't own it. So mortgages, mechanics liens, used car storage, you name it. So there's some practical problems there as well.
I guess this is just conjecture, but if we did put it at well, we're saying $300,000. So if someone's willing to put $300,000 into it, I would guess they're probably going to invest other. They wouldn't want to spend $300,000 to see it go into disrepair. Whereas some cases, and I won't use this district, but other districts I've worked in where we've given the properties over to other people, the same thing has happened where it's just gone to nothing because they didn't have to invest anything in it. They gave it a try, said, forget it, and there was nothing there. But if we're selling it at a substantial amount, I would believe that people would have the wherewithal to put the funds into it to keep it viable. Okay, so we'll bring back a realtor's opinion next month, and we can at least have the resolution on the agenda.
Okay.
So that we want to act on it, we can.
And once we have a resolution, what's the time frame for that thing?
It has to be in publication it has 3 weeks. So we could approve it as little as a month later, right, Luke?
So after you adopt the resolution, then it has to be 3 consecutive weeks of publication before you would have the auction. And with most school clients will choose sealed bid auction rather than actually having an auction style auction.
You can do an auction. I just recommended we do a sealed bid. I think it's cleaner. Everybody's there. You can do it in public just like you do any other sealed bid. You just announce it and everybody sees what you did.
Okay. Moving on, focus area 3, responding to the changing needs of our community. First subject is student success and support program discussion. That'd be Dr. Esplin.
Thank you. So I put that on there just because we've made a lot of personnel moves. We've done a lot. And so I asked Mrs. Ritchie to basically put a summary in your board packet so you could read it. And so if you have any specific questions, I will be happy to answer those that I can. I may defer to Mrs. Ritchie at times, but it was just really because so many different actions have taken place in the last few months. I just wanted to kind of tie a bow around it so everybody could kind of see what was really there in summary because they've been done in different pieces and time. So any questions anybody has about that? And if you have them later, you can obviously ask them later.
Seeing no questions, we'll move on. The next item, the YMCA agreement, we're going to table that.
Can I explain what that is just so everybody understands?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we had expected an agreement by now and we don't have it in hand, so that's why we're asking to table it. So the YMCA would like to, we would like to donate the playground equipment at Gale to the YMCA. And they are very excited to take it. And if we write in an agreement that they have to get it, they have to restore the green space, basically fill in all the dirt holes where all the stuff is. They have to transport it. They waive us of any liability of anything happening as a result. Everything's fine. So, that's what the intent of the agreement is. And, we feel like it's really the best situation for all of it because those parents that would have donated the money to get that playground equipment, as we all know, Gale and the Y are really close together. So it's really still in the same neighborhood. And it would be actively used and really be, somewhere in the back, I think, but I didn't really ask that question. So they said they wanted it. And so, it would be used again. I mean, and that would be great. And because where it is right now, we can't really have a lot of people using it during the school day or anytime. So we would like to be able to donate that to them. But we don't have the agreement in hand yet, so that's why we're tabling it.
Okay. The next item needs a motion. Consider approval of the intergovernmental agreement with Delabar's CTE.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Espen.
Thank you. This is a yearly approval so that we can access state CTE monies.
Any questions? Allison?
Phelps,
Yes.
Rodriguez. Aye. Sharpie.
Aye.
Bestab. Betcher. Cervantes.
Aye.
Lyon.
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion to consider approval of press policies. This is the first reading.
So moved. Second.
I just had a quick question. When I looked through these, I didn't actually see any notations like we used to. So is any of this being changed when they were given to us, or what's being updated in these press
None of the
policies?
ones in the first reading were being changed at all. There was a couple of policies that the committee needs to look at and discuss.
Okay.
Specifically fundraising.
Okay.
But all of the ones that were in there were updated without substantial change or just changing to comply with law.
Okay.
And this is just the first reading.
Correct.
Do we-
We'll be coming back next
Right.
month likely with some language changes on fundraising policy.
Okay. Do we need to vote on first reading?
You need to vote, it's just a voice vote, you read it.
Okay.
Just do it all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Next, motion to approve the 2021-2022 substitute pay rates.
So moved.
And be Ms. Ham.
So in front of you tonight, you have a memo regarding the suggested changes to substitute rates for 21-22. We have increased all of our pay from our teachers to paraprofessionals, food service, custodial and maintenance, as well as nursing professionals and secretaries. So we needed the sub rates to reflect those increases that we have put in place over the past year. There is a pretty substantial increase to some of these, but once again, they are reflective of the increases for the other positions that we have throughout the district. Does anyone have any specific questions about any of the rates?
The
Wow.
teacher sub is a considerable increase, correct?
It is a considerable increase. Last year, obviously, was a different situation, but we're going into 21-22 with some of the similar challenges that we had when we returned to in-person learning last year, and obtaining substitutes was incredibly difficult. We had at one time 8 on the list. We're hoping that by substantially increasing the substitute daily rate, which is still less than the daily per diem of a starting teacher, that we will be able to attract substitutes not only just from this area, but that additional money will encourage people to potentially come here and drive a substantial difference to be able to sub for us. There was a lot of strain on our teaching staff last year because of the limited subs. Many were asked to sub during their planning periods and didn't have that opportunity to spend time during the day to adequately prepare for their classes. We're trying to avoid a repeat of that next year. Some of that may be unavoidable. I don't think that our problem is going to go away 100%, but I definitely think by increasing this substantially, that will help aid the problem and get people coming here from hopefully a little bit further away.
So what are the comparables on this anyway? What are our neighboring districts paying?
I did a survey of all area districts.
We didn't plan that.
They all, but we felt we needed to know that information. All our area districts pay $100, but Monmouth Roseville pays $110, and it ramps up to, I believe, $130 very quickly. So the only one that would be in any competition with us really would be Monmouth Roseville.
Because we're looking at a rate now of $150 a day
For the first 10 days
of consecutive. In the
yes.
same classroom or at all?
It is in the same position.
Right.
In the same position. And then on day 11, it would ramp up to $216.67.
Which it would do that regardless of what we paid the first 10.
Right.
Right. So, but if you are, subbing 2 days in one classroom and 3 days in another, you stay at the 150 rate. Are there any questions about any of the other rates? I do have.
What's your projected cost?
It's difficult because the last true year that we have is 2018-19.
Okay.
Because we didn't even finish a full year in 2019-20. So, given what the rates were those years, in 2018-19, we spent $397,776 on certified substitutes for that year. We're looking at an increase of $198,888 if we had the same number of absences. For paraprofessionals, we spent $84,511. In 18-19, we're looking at $97,187. That's an increase of $12,676. Food service, in 18-19, we spent $30,590. We're looking at an increase to $45,885, which is $15,245 increase. Custodians, in 18-19, we spent $19,090. We'd be looking at an increase to $20,999. It's a $1,909 increase for a total of $228,768 new dollars if we had the same number of subs in each one of those positions as we did in 18-19.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She knew you were gonna ask that. She had it all down.
It's a lot of numbers, I know.
There's a lot more variables though.
Well, I hope this brings people to our district.
It's a huge increase, and I will say that I tasked Mrs. Ham with projecting those numbers out and saying, well, if you can fit it into the budget and we feel strongly that that's going to get people here, then we should try it. But I do understand it's a prohibitive increase, but we do have trouble getting substitute teachers.
But if we don't attract them, we're not going to lower it though.
Probably not.
So,
but we might stay static for a really long time.
Allison?
Sherpy?
Aye.
Best Tab? Aye. Betcher? Cervantes?
Aye.
Lyon?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez? Aye.
Good luck.
Okay, need a motion for the next item, approval of the athletic worker pay rates.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ham?
In 2016-17, Member Cervantes will remember that the board took a look at our athletic workers' pay and the number of hours in which the athletic workers were typically scheduled for each event. And we came up with a formula to kind of equalize that. There were pay rates all over the board, and they really didn't have any rhyme or reason. So we haven't increased those rates since 2016-17. They were based on $12 an hour, so that we can get a jump on the curve of the $15 an hour minimum. And then also, we're experiencing the same things with athletic workers as we are in other areas, finding it difficult at times to find athletic workers. We're hoping to encourage people to want to come out and work our events. So I'm asking that the board increase that to $15 an hour as the base for the formula.
So these positions get advertised? How do people know that these exist?
Question.
I'm sorry.
So
Wait, I retract my question. Deanna?
No, that's okay. Great points. Well, I see.
I'm going to let Mr. Matthews answer that question.
Volunteers don't get
I'll
paid.
send an email out.
And we'll sign up on the
Yes.
forum.
No, we just advertise it, I'll be honest, I have a group of workers that are very dependable and I can reach it out to them at any time, and those are the people that I really hit up first, and then which never gets filled. So then after that it's just if they're high school events, we'll send it out to the high school staff and say, here's the dates, here's the times, here's how many I need, who's interested. And then me, just start filling them in as we go along. Yeah.
We have had requests start moving that to the other schools too.
Yeah, and we do. And like last year,
other staff members can take.
Last year I expanded my search because of COVID and things, people didn't feel comfortable working. So we had Churchill, we had some from Lombard. It just kind of, we just throw the net out and it just keeps getting broader and broader until we can get them filled.
Are these sometimes filled by community members who aren't staff members?
Yeah.
So how do they find out?
Well, the ones that we've used in the past. Or if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I would be willing to do something like that," then I said, "Okay, that's fine. We got to get you registered. You got to get your paperwork done, and then we move forward." I've used high school kids before. We have a lot of events, and there is trying to fill all of those is a huge task. And as things come up, I always get them filled, and then the day of, it's people start dropping, things happen, life happens. So yeah, it's the raising it to $15 an hour it will help a lot. But I know a lot of districts, and the one I came from, I mean, what we paid at that, it was considerably more. So this will be a huge step in the direction to hopefully we'll get some more of those positions filled sooner than later.
The other challenge we have is that we always have to be careful with existing staff members. With our certified staff, we don't have to worry about it, but our hourly staff, they can't go over 40 hours a week. And then we also have to be careful, if they were to go over that, we would have to pay overtime, a blended overtime rate, which becomes tricky and a little bit challenging. And then we also have to be cognizant of IMRF with those individuals, because if they're in the pipeline or could potentially be in the pipeline in a few years, we could end up with pretty substantial penalties if they were to go over 6% earnings from the prior year. So it's yes, you do. Yes, IMRF and TRS. So it's a little tricky, you know. Unfortunately, we've had a couple workers that we've not been able to use as much as they wanted to work because they were working 37 hours a week with us during the day and then had very limited time then to work athletic events as well. So it becomes even more challenging for Mr. Matthews when you have to fit in those variables.
So when you're talking about them working these athletic events, are they your people who are like at the taking your tickets?
Take tickets, supervise.
Like doing those types of things.
Doing the clock, doing the book.
Okay.
It's announcing, helping at track meets. It's a gamut of.
So everything, every sport.
Yes.
Kinda.
Yes.
So then will you look at like expanding this out a little further to pull people in so that you're not running into this issue of, you know, the IMRF and all of those things?
So one of the things we can do, we did a test run a few weeks ago for custodians. We were having difficulty finding custodians. And Amy Pickrell put out a Facebook ad. It was a paid ad. It cost us, I think, less than $50. We'd never done this before. We got over 1,000 people that were interested. And from that generated a very large number that then went on to our frontline system and actually filled out applications. And Mr. Spring was able to hire 2 people just last Friday. This is a huge shift for us for not having any applicants. So that's definitely something we could do with our athletic workers.
Yeah, I absolutely think there would be a lot of people interested.
Yes.
So there's a lot of people that go, and then heck, if they go and get paid there.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Correct.
We got football booths covered.
Member Phelps says, please don't change anything in the football. That's just because you all have snacks up there.
She snacks you. Thank you, Eric.
Oh, thank you.
Allison?
Bestab?
Aye.
Fetcher? Cervantes?
Aye.
Lyon?
Yes.
Phelps?
Aye.
Rodriguez? Aye. Sherpy?
Aye. Next point on the agenda, approval of the fiscal year 22 tentative budget. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ham?
So the board has a copy of the tentative agenda. I will say that I would.
Budget.
What did I say? Agenda?
Agenda.
I'm sorry. Senior moment there. I apologize. It's past my bedtime. The tentative budget, sorry. We are still going to be making some substantial changes between now and September. We are still vetting all of our ESSER 3 money and where that will actually go within the budget. For FY22, we are still in the process of hiring positions. We've had several resignations and that we're attempting to fill those positions before the start of school. So I'll give a formal budget presentation, but our tentative budget looks very healthy and very good for FY22. So I don't see that there's really any concerns or anything that we should be worried about. We're going to be able to meet our fiscal policy within board policy in terms of cash on hand and expenditure to revenue ratio. So I think we're in a really good position for FY22. Does anyone see? Oh, Mr. Houston, yes. Do you want to talk about JVC?
Sure.
Yes.
Part of the budget.
Good evening, members of the board and Central Office Administration. I want to say that Mr. Phelps said that the old JVC wing is really cool, but I'm here to tell you I was in the new JVC Center today, and it's even cooler. So we got all the furniture delivered today, and see how I did that? Yeah. And so it's really coming along, but I wanted to share the budget with you. With the help of Ms. Ham, I think that this was a year for us to spend, get some capital outlay projects done. I think we're spending down some of our reserve, but the estimated beginning balance starting this year was about, as you can see in the 2 to 4 tab, about $698,128. We did, our revenues coming in is going to be pretty similar. They're saying that the state allocations for the CTEI grant, the Perkins grant, should be the same. I don't have those allocations yet, but all projections saying that they will remain as the same number. Our enrollment numbers are down a tad, but that's because of the COVID. We couldn't get out and recruit last year. All of our recruiting was done online, and so enrollment also feeds our budget, but it's not down that much, so that's a good news. As far as some of the expenditures, like I said, salary increases. We do not have anybody to hire, thankfully. We're full staffed, which is great. And so salary increases to both our teachers, and then Ms. Abel, our director, shows an increase in some of our expenditures. So we're still ahead of the game, and I feel good about it because we shouldn't be spending much more money after this year. I mean, I think our center is going to be ready to go. I believe that it's going to be outfitted. We've got staff. So from this point on, it's just going to be maintaining and getting better. So, do you have any questions?
Not about the budget, but in terms of attracting students, is our calendar being different from the other school districts hurting you and attracting students from the other districts?
Well, I think yes and no. We also have to juggle the Carl Sandburg dual credit calendar in there too. And so we have a lot of those calendars to juggle, but with the help of our area superintendents, it's gone very well, especially last year. I can't give those guys enough accolades for how they were able to adjust on their end and adopt our schedule. Now, Sandburg's schedule trumps all of ours. So, whatever they do, we've got to do. That's a dual credit situation. Those kids are getting, college credit. So that's the schedule we follow on that end. This year, it shouldn't be much of a challenge, we hope. We're all going to be in school. We're all going to be, wearing our mask. Just our late start's not going to matter. The only program it will matter with is our CNA class because of the seat time that's mandated by the Illinois Department of Health. So, yeah. Any other questions? It may have to start, yes, a little earlier. But the good news is our center will be ready to go. That room will be ready to go. Mr. Spring will be meeting me Wednesday. We're going to be setting the equipment in the center, which we've been waiting on. That'll be the first stage, and then we're going to come in behind it. And then we did the punch list with Mr. Spring the other day, got through the facility, found some things they needed to tidy up on their end. But it's all coming together. We feel pretty good about it.
I would also add that Mr. Houston and I met briefly just the other day, and we are putting together plans to have our area counselors and principals and superintendents come through and tour the facility
Yeah.
so that we can start Mr. Houston on a barnstorming tour to recruit students into the center.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited. We got some new superintendents we need to go meet with. So we need to sell what we're doing to them. And as I said, we are an area vocational center. So we serve the area. What's good for our area is good for us, is good for them, and it's good for our workforce. So, yep. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you.
Allison?
Fletcher. Cervantes.
Aye.
Lyon.
Yes.
Phelps.
Aye.
Rodriguez. Aye. Sherpy.
Aye.
Best tab.
Aye.
Okay, and personnel, need a motion to consider approval of the personnel report.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody seen it? Any questions, comments? Allison?
Cervantes.
Aye.
Lyon.
Yes.
Phelps.
Aye.
Rodriguez. Aye. Sherpy.
Aye.
Best tab.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Okay, need a motion to consider approval of administrator contracts.
Second.
Do we need any discussion on this, or?
As you said, there are some that are multiple year and some that are single year based on tenure status within the district. Nothing new on there, no new language of any consequence. We'd already decided salaries last month.
Yes, sir. Okay, Allison?
Lyon.
Yes.
Phelps.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Sherpy.
Yes.
Best tab. Fletcher. Cervantes.
Aye.
Okay, need a motion to consider approval of job descriptions.
So moved.
Second.
And Ms. Ham?
So the job descriptions you have in front of you tonight are really an extension of what we had talked about in June with Mrs. Ritchie and the Student Support and Success Program. We advertised for a 5-6 counselor and a 7-8 counselor, and unfortunately, with the ESSER money around the state of Illinois, those are really hot commodities. There was a shortage prior to this for school guidance counselors, and then many school districts had the same idea that we did to provide supports for their students, and there's just simply no qualified candidates out there. So Mrs. Ritchie and her team put together job descriptions that would provide those same supports but would not require the same certification. The hope is that the individuals that we would hire for these positions would then pursue a guidance counseling degree as they worked for us, so that in the future we would have certified 5, 6, and 7, 8 guidance counselors. But in the interim, we would also be able to provide those supports for our students. So that is the change in the job description from what we'd previously talked about. Does anyone have any specific questions?
So in the 5-6, they need to be guidance counselors?
So yes, so that was in our initial presentation, it was to be a certified guidance counselor as well as 7-8. And so with the new job descriptions, they do not need that.
Okay.
They do not need that. Mhm.
Based on what we're requiring, that's our job description, not coming from the money and mandate.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. We want.
Correct.
Okay, Allison?
Phelps.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Sherpy.
Aye.
Best tab. Fletcher. Cervantes.
Aye.
Lyon.
Okay, next one is Dr. Asplin, grievance update.
Yeah, we are in the period now where I have given the union my response regarding their grievance on graduation credit reimbursement. And we are within the 30-day window now for whether or not they're going to decide to do anything with that or not. So we had a very productive meeting and everything's been done with a lot of discussion. So feel good about that. And then that's the only grievance. And then FOIA, since it's me too, we had one last month. Don't ask me why we got it, but it's Tuscany Strategy Consulting is a Baltimore-based education research firm requesting information on a purchase order. That's it. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see, yeah, we're just about done. Final thing is comments by Board of Education. I'll start on my right. Member Best Tab.
I don't have a whole lot. We had a great meeting with the Behavior Committee. I think the community and the direction we're headed with that. I'm excited for that. Other than that, as far as the master concerned, I think, things are gonna continue to change. And, as far as making any kind of, decisions, even in the near future, I mean, we just have several weeks to go. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, Member Cervantes.
I have no comments.
Oh, really?
Mark that down.
Hey, you know what? My mama taught me. You can't say nothing nice.
Member Rodriguez.
I want to just point out, because I don't know how well it's been advertised, but we are having community open houses on our brand new buildings for the community to come and see our buildings that we would really appreciate everybody to come to. They are Saturday, August 28th from 9 to 2 at Steele, Lombard, and King. And you can come and visit them and see what your hard tax dollars are paying for. That's all I got.
Yeah, excellent
Yeah,
point.
not increasing taxes.
Okay, over to the left.
So mask. Everything tonight, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own beliefs. I know a lot of people think we sitting on this board don't care, but we do. And we still have a few weeks. It's ever changing, as you see and hear every day. I'll just put my opinion out. I've had the vaccine, and now they tell me I got to wear a mask when I'm in the school building. Why'd they get the vaccine? So I get it. Trust us that we will do, talking with Luke, and we will vet everything and come with a decision that is good for the kids, for everybody. We want our children in school. We all want to be safe. So tonight, some people have some strong opinions, and I respect that. We all can have our opinions, but still come to an amiable agreement. So thank you for everybody's input, but please let us think through this and get our thoughts and come with a very palatable ending.
I guess my mother didn't give me the same advice, Tiana. First of all, I'm real excited about school starting. I mean, children have been out too much. We're in school 5 days a week. As Courtney said, we have this open house, so we're going to see the buildings. Children are going to be in the buildings. I wish more people would register, because that's why we're here. I took offense a few hours ago when people said we don't put children first, because we do. I mean, I was very offended by that. Not as offended about some other things. I believe that we all have an open forum for people to speak about things relative to the schools. I believe it is inappropriate for people in our community to use our open forum as their forum for all the hate and vile they may have against other people and other parts of government. We should not be, as the school district, the whipping boy for every grievance against the community. I believe people that do that should be stopped. I think it's inappropriate for us to give them a forum. We have a responsibility to put children first and not to give people a megaphone for their views. Because we have business for the kids, and that's why we're here, not for providing a public megaphone.
Sorry.
Okay, and I'm the last one in this group. Yeah, there were some very passionate comments tonight from members of the community. And I would echo Member Phelps's comments. We are here to do what's going to be best for the children. I understand Member Lyons' complaints about, many of the items getting no longer germane to the business of the school board. I understand that. But that being said, we have quite a while before these decisions get made. We're going to be one of the last school districts in the area to be opening. We have construction going on. I'm excited about the new construction. I regret the delays. I wish we could open day one to a completely finished new building, but much of that is beyond our control, and we've all heard the reasons why. Let's see. Moving on to other things, I'm very happy to hear that the Jump Start program is progressing and has good numbers, and we're doing good things with kids there. And finally, I just want to make a comment about one of our former members, Vicki Banks. She recently passed away. I got to know her as a member of the school board, and it was an honor and a privilege to work beside her. She definitely had a passion for kids in school, and I think she would have been here up to the very last minute working on the school board if it wasn't for that. I had many long telephone conversations about her discussing, the situation of our school district and our future, and things we wanted to see. She was also a lady who was very passionate about her love for her family. She talked about them a great deal, and I'll always remember her. That being said, does anybody have any future agenda items?
We had a presentation today on the solar people.
Yes.
I'd like to
Yes.
have him come back again in 2 months, have an update to make sure that he knows that we aren't losing track of it. And I'd like to hear how we're going to be able to sign people up. Because I do not want this electricity going to the whole state. I want our families to take it.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled to be here.
I would like to.
Yeah, where's Peter?
Yeah, where's Peter?
Let me know when he gets on the road. All right, the next meeting date is Monday, September 13th at 7 p.m. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, we're adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.